All right, guys. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a short video on some of the final thoughts of the build of, Iron Man, but I also want to highlight a couple of things. I want to highlight the way that I created the model to be able to remove the arms, as you can see here. And I'm going to scrub through the video to take you through all of the highlights. I'm going to show you how I wired the LEDs and the controller I use for that. And yeah, just some final thoughts. Okay, so when I build the video, obviously the shoulder pads here, or the shoulder shields, if you will, basically just fit into the arm. And I did not glue them, so I can remove them, as you can see here. So you can see there's a slot there, and the whole shield basically gets removed. And now it basically exposes the arm. There's another cylinder that I'm going to glue here that's part of the model. But the one thing that I want you to notice right away is this little notch of plastic, at the top here. It's something that it's not part of the model, and I actually created. It's nothing really that complex. It's just a square piece of plastic. And the reason why I glued it here is when the shield is on, you can't even see it. But as you will see here in a minute, it actually locks the arm in place. Most of the weight of the arm is basically downwards, right? So if you were going to let go of the arm, it would fall down this way because the weight is in this direction. But here it gets supported, and with this little plastic piece here, it locks it into place. And I also place magnets behind it. Let me just fast forward the video here a little bit so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So you'll see here, I point out the plastic. All you got to do is lift the arm upwards. There you go. And as you can see, it easily detaches. So as you can see, because of the little ledge of the model here, and because of this little plastic piece, which you can see better here, this thing sort of latches underneath and it secures the arm in place. Now, as you can see here, I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 magnets. I found out that you really don't need these magnets because this little piece here, believe it or not, is more than enough to secure the arm. But the magnets do help because it sort of like helps to push the arm to be more flush with this area here. They also help when you're, mocking up and, measuring. But I thought that magnets alone would be more than enough to support the weight of the arm. They're not, unless you use much larger magnets. That might have been enough, but then it will probably become a little bit more difficult for you to remove because of the attraction forces. But anyway, like I said, this little plastic piece here is more than enough to support the arm. As you can see, here are the cables for the LEDs in the channels. And because there's a lot of space around this area, I put connectors on them. These are Molex connectors. So obviously, if I wanted to completely detach the arm, so you can transport it or whatever, you can easily do it by just disconnecting the LEDs. And let me see here again. I think there's a place here where I zoom in a little more to try to show you guys. Just try scrubbing the video here a little more. There you go. You can see it there a little better, how this little plastic piece, which is really nothing complex at all, it was glued in place and is enough to attach the arm in place. As you do it here, just tuck those wires into that hole there. There's more than enough room here. Let me play the video. As you can see, you take the arm, lining up the wires again. You just easily notch it under the little piece, place it here, and just like that, it's in place. It is more than enough to support it. It could not be easier to remove and reattach. And then obviously the shoulder pad here will go back on. Now, I found out the reason why I have this detachable is because the shoulder pad basically comes close to contact with this area. You might not have enough room if you glued it to lift the arm upwards in order to remove it. And that's the reason why I left it without gluing it in place. It's more than enough to support it. There's not a lot of weight. If you're concerned, you can even put a little bit of more tape around this hole here to create more friction when you are attaching the shoulder pad. Again, not needed, really not needed at all. And it really gives you a lot of room to be able to remove and reattach the arm. Let me see here if I scrub a little bit forward. Here you can see me. Let me just play this for you guys. After the arm is attached, you can easily put the shoulder pad back in place. You push it in, and there you go. Just like that. That easy. I really can't say enough about the way this model was designed. I was looking at it, and you know, I wanted to see how I could easily make the arms detachable. I thought of all things, but once I see how they attach, and by that little plastic piece that I've mentioned is more than enough to support the weight of the arm, it just became extremely simple to be able to attach and remove it. Okay, so yeah, that's a little more. Let's go on ahead and take a look at some other aspects of the model when we talk a little bit more about the LEDs. So what I wanted to show here is the LED system that I chose to use with the model. It's obviously a very popular one. You guys have probably heard about it. It's called WLED. And I will post links in the description, but I'll also walk you through some of the items here. Not a full tutorial on WLED. It's pretty straightforward, but primarily using an ESP8266 chip. I'm able to pretty much create an infinite array of effects as well as colors for both the eyes, the arc reactor, and the pulse reactors in the hands. Now, obviously, if you created a more elaborate base for the model and you put LEDs there, really you can control an infinite amount of LEDs. Now, the LEDs that I use are individually addressable LEDs. And with the WLED program, not only are you able to, as you can see here, I have my phone, you can control you know, the LED colors, but you can create an infinite number of presets as well as create segments. So you can basically create an LED segment, let's say just for the arc reactor, that will affect the effects you put here, individual for the eyes, individual for the pulse reactor in the arms. Again, the options are pretty much infinite. And let me play the video for you guys here. As you can see, I went in, power button will easily power the model up. I have it obviously, you know, all white with the arc reactor, but then I created a whole bunch of different presets, if you will, just for laughs. The heartbeat one is pretty cool. But like I said, you can create an infinite number of effects, infinite number of colors, LEDs. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. WLED has a lot of built-in presets that are really pretty cool. You know, you can play with, but again, by creating different segments, you can control, let's say, just the arc reactor or the eyes. You can have timers, you know, etc. Pretty cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of the wiring, as well as I will include all of the links in the description of the process that I used and the information that you can actually go and read more upon how you can create, you know, the wiring. Now, if you are inclined, you can use pretty much any microcontroller to control the LEDs. There's a ton of information out there for using Arduino or anything else. Obviously, the ESP8266, it's really cool because it has a built-in Wi-Fi chip. And using an application like this, that's also included, you can easily control the model over Wi-Fi, create timers, have it come on a certain time of day. I was going to go a little bit elaborate, maybe at a different point in time. I might integrate some sort of a voice channel with another microcontroller, but that's you know, further on down the road. Okay, so let's look a little bit on the let's take a look at the wiring. So here is the ESP8266 chip. You can easily get one of these things for a few dollars on Amazon. They're really extremely cheap. And what I did is I 3D printed a case for it. integrated a DC power connector. You'll see here the power brick in a minute. And as you can see here, it's just basically wiring the LEDs. There's always 3 wires to the LEDs that I have. Again, these are individually addressable. They're not the traditional RGB LEDs, which have 4 wires. These have 3 wires. Again, I will give you guys the details in the description of the video so you can see what I purchased. But pretty straightforward. You just program the chip. I put it into this little case. I provide 5-volt power. My LEDs are 5-volt. There are options for 12-volt, but you don't need anything more than 5-volt. Crank the printer up again, printer a PETG case for it, and it works out pretty well. Let me take a look here. I'll give you guys an image of the power. Here is the power brick that I'm using. It's again, you get it on Amazon. It's a 5-volt 10 amp. You don't really need 10 amps, but I had it laying around. Obviously, if you have a lot more LEDs, it's important to pay attention to the power that the LEDs are going to consume so that you have enough amperage to be able to power them. And yeah, just straight 5 volts into the ESP8266 chip, and using the phone as a controller, you can control all of the effects that I showed you on the model. And now, with that said, here let's bring up another picture. I want to show you the WLED. There's a wiki out there. I will again put it in the description of the video. You can read all about it. It's very detailed. There's some startup guides, but at the end of the day, you need the power supply, which I showed you. That provides power to the ESP8266 microcontroller. And then from there, you simply wire your RGB LEDs. Now, these are wired in sequence, okay? So the input of one LED or strip goes into the output of the other. So you have to sort of consider how you're going to run those wires through the model. I started with the arc reactor first, and then from there, the output of that I put into the right arm. The output of that I put into the visor, and then I finished up with the left arm. Again, you can wire these things in sequence so you can create the different segments that I've mentioned. Again, all of those items are in the description of the WLED wiki. At full size, the model has ample space to run the wires, and it's very easy for you to run the wires because the model is so big. You can just basically just snake them through. You can use regular hookup wire, solder the LEDs together, and the whole thing becomes extremely simple. So that's a little bit on the wiring. Now, also here you can see that it shows on the wiring diagram, again, power supply to ESP, digital pin out to the 3 wires of the LEDs, use of a level shifter. You don't have to use this. I did not use a level shifter, and everything works out pretty well. The 1000 microfarad capacitor here is actually pretty good because it creates a buffer for the LEDs, and it just powers them better. You can omit this. I really didn't use one, and it still works well. But anyway, if you want to go according to the diagrams here, again, notice that it denotes here that the LEDs are 5 volt. You can use 12 volts, but they are WS2812s, which are individually addressable. And as you can see here, the LEDs have 3 wires. Okay, so pay attention when you look at our RGB LEDs on Amazon or whatever you acquire them from, that they are the WS2812 variety. They're individually addressable. So basically data goes out from the ESP8266 chip, and it's able to address every LED. Actually has a little chip on it to be able to control the color, but also that's what allows you to create different segments and create an infinite number of effects, like we talked about in making your model look good. Okay, so that's a little bit again on the wiring. Okay, guys, so here is the finished model. Just gonna have a couple of short videos here to highlight it. You can also see my highlight video, but as you can see here, I could not be happier with the way the model turned out. The finish, all of the work that went into with the resin, as you can see in the build videos, with the sanding, and then the duplicolor colors are awesome. There are times where I wish the gold was a little bit more of a chrome gold, but I'm really still pretty happy with the way the gold came out. And, overall, as you can see the model with the arc reactor and, the lights, I used resin for some of the arc reactor parts. The eyes I printed out of clear PETG, because once the LEDs are on, you can't really see it. And I might actually, I left the face mask here, removable, so I can always remove the PETG behind there. And maybe if I ever decide to do any sort of clear resin, or there's some LED eyes out there that people are using for cosplay helmets, and they're pretty good because they have a honeycomb pattern to them, and they might look pretty cool. So at some time in the future, I might decide to replace that. But overall, I could not be happier with the way this model turned out. I've shared a lot of pictures. You can see some of the video here. You can see the pulse reactor in the hand and the effect that I chose there. The pictures and video do not do this model justice. Seeing the model life size, it really is pretty much Iron Man standing there. Very highly detailed. A lot of detail overall in the model, and the time that I spend with the finish, making sure that all imperfections, no layer lines anywhere, really paid out in the end in really creating what I consider a showpiece. So I'm hoping that the sharing of the model, a lot of the build series that I did, has inspired some of you. It's not a project for the faint of heart. It's a large project. But if you're into 3D printing and you have a printer that over time can crank out these parts, I really would encourage you to try something of this size. Take it slow, day by day, piece by piece, and you'll be proud of the end result. So also wanted to say thank you for following along with some of the videos that I created in my build series. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I'm in a lot of the 3D printing groups on Facebook, as well as the posting of the video on YouTube. Share your comments. Love to hear them. And again, please don't hesitate to ask if you guys have any questions. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.